Welcome to the X22 Report Spotlight. Today we have a new guest, Scott Wiper. Scott is an American filmmaker, producer, director, and screenwriter. Scott wrote and produced and directed his first feature, Captain Jack, and he's also known for his action films such as The Big Ugly and The Condemned. He decided to take on the project and make the Flynn movie. This is his first documentary, and I am very happy to have Scott on the X22 Report Spotlight. Scott, welcome to the Spotlight.
Thank you for having me, Dave.
Hey, thanks for being here. I'm very happy to have you on. I'm honored to have you on. And, you know, I saw the Flynn movie, excellent documentary. I spoke to General Flynn about it. I actually interviewed him about it. And I just wanted to know, why did you decide to take this on? I mean, this is kind of out of your wheelhouse. You decided, you know something, let's make this documentary. What brought you to this point where you said, okay, I guess I'm assuming you like General Flynn. You like what, you saw what happened to him. Why was this an interest to you?
Well, first and foremost, the General Flynn story had to be told, right? It just had to be told. There were, I was watching, I'm a movie maker, but I'm also a media expert in the sense that I'm the kind of guy that will record when the days I had a DVR, I'd record 6 different news channels that would come on at 3 a.m. in Los Angeles. And I'd study, and I'd notice when something wasn't natural, it was manufactured, call it the 4 a.m. talking points. I noticed this with Donald Trump, and then I definitely noticed it with General Flynn. And as I dug deeper, it was just a classic right out of a John Grisham novel. An innocent man was being accused, and more devastating to me, he was being dehumanized, right? Very few figures in history deserve to be dehumanized, and that hit something in me. So it was, as a filmmaker, any kind of artist, there are things that grab your heart and you just say to yourself, this needs to be told. The truth needs to be uncovered.
Before you made this, did you believe there were criminal aspects to the government? There was a deep state or anything like that? Because you mentioned the 4 a.m. talking points. So before you actually did this, before you delve into what happened to General Flynn, did you believe that beforehand?
Yes, I grew up in a family where, in the 1980s, I was born in 1970. So as a teenager, Iran-Contra and all the shenanigans going on was dinner table talk and where I grew up. And I was always passionate about movies, but I always kind of believed in, call it the uniparty, and probably dating back to during the Clinton years, and I voted for Bill Clinton twice, and I voted for Barack Obama, but I was always uneasy, and maybe that was because I went to a very liberal school, Wesleyan University, after coming from a small Ohio town. But I knew that I always felt, as we went through the Clinton years, not much is changing, right? It just seems like they've changed the talking points on television, like professional wrestling. But I always had a sense, well, they're just kind of, during the Bill Clinton years, the wars are continuing in the former Yugoslavia and other places. And it seems like the George H.W. Bush agenda was just being executed with a different facade. And then, of course, during the 8 years of Obama, I really started to feel that same thing. So I was always aware of corruption. And of course, as a movie maker, you need a human vessel to open people's eyes. And to me, General Flynn was that perfect vessel because he was this great, innocent, incorruptible soldier who'd served his country for 33 years. And I felt if people just understand his story, because, storytelling is always, you want the human drama. And I thought if people could understand this story, it will flip a switch and a light will come on, and they'll be able to understand so many other things that are happening in our country and across the world.
So when you were making the film, did you start to learn more about the deep state, like things that you didn't realize? Did you start to see maybe what happened to General Flynn in a different way, where you said, okay, I didn't understand this. I didn't realize that it was this bad. I didn't realize that they were this evil. Did you start to...
Yes, I think I was so rooted in the humans, the specifics about what happened to General Flynn and his family, his wife Lori, his son Michael Jr., and his siblings as well, that I think I kind of immersed myself in the human story, but there were, yes, the specifics shocked me. But I can't say as I went through it I was very aware of corruption, right? So I can't say anything hit me like a shocker, right?
Right.
But what the system would do to an innocent family, meaning, all right, here's the soldier, General Flynn, and then but the monstrous activity by the system against anybody, and I saw the same thing with those that supported Donald Trump. So, but probably my biggest growth was I came to, I like I said, I was probably more of a libertarian type, California Democrat mentality until Donald Trump came along. But the more, and I didn't just sit down and do, I worked a short interview with General Flynn. I was with him for most of 2023 and 2024. But what the biggest change in me was, I was like, this man is amazing. And his knowledge of the intelligence agencies, the intelligence community. So I think I realized that what a threat he was. And he was a threat when Barack Obama, that administration, brought him in, which, the globalist media rarely tells you that he was one of the highest ranking intelligence officers in Iraq and Afghanistan in military intelligence, but it was Jim Clapper and the Obama administration that appointed him all the way to director of the Defense Intelligence Agency, one of our largest agencies in the country and in the world. They always skip that over. So I think the growth I had was I realized just what a threat he was to them, because the moment Donald Trump tapped him as national security advisor, it just went nuts. I mean, they were scared of those two coming together.
Well, I remember in the very beginning when Trump was first coming to office, and in your film, Obama actually said, these are the two people you have to be worried about, Kim Jong-un, and he said General Flynn, which, I mean, these are two separate people completely. They're not even in the same category. I mean, from your perspective, why do you think Obama mentioned Flynn? What were they so afraid of? Why were they so afraid of Flynn?
He knows where the bodies are buried. That's a metaphor for he understands the intelligence community is this massive lab. It's a labyrinth, and it has anyone who comes in needs a tour guide to even understand this massive community that's become larger than most governments. And he knows it inside and out. I think when he says where the bodies are buried, he's referring to black programs. He's referring to many things. But as far as that moment, it's you can't make this stuff up, right? Obama and these globalists are flat thinkers, because if you are Barack Obama and you don't want Donald Trump to hire General Flynn, you'd think through the psychology a little bit better. Like, beware of Kim Jong-un of North Korea, and beware of General Flynn. What did Donald Trump do? President-elect Donald Trump called up General Flynn and said, "What's up with this?" And we reveal in the movie, General Flynn said, "I never met the man." Now that blows your mind, Dave, right?
Yeah.
That I don't know, maybe it's unprecedented, but what president, and this is something audiences always come up to me and say, "I didn't know that," but what president doesn't ask to meet, or at least during the time they're serving, someone who's running one of their largest intelligence agencies? That makes you ask, was Obama even in control?
Yeah, it really does. I mean, what's very interesting now is that it feels like we're coming full circle. What's very interesting is that now it seems like Kamala is coming into play, and it looks like Obama is still running this shadow government and still in charge. It seems like he never stopped being in charge. It seems like he's now still in charge. Do you think we're maybe coming full circle to that moment from when Trump came into office, Flynn came in and started to work with Trump, Trump, but then of course Obama attacked him. Do you think we're coming like to a full circle moment now?
I do think we're coming to a full circle, right? And it's when you when you map this stuff out, it's, I think there's nothing Donald Trump would love more than for an Obama, be it Barack or Michelle, to step back into the spotlight, or Hillary Clinton. Because I believe while he was president, he declassified lots of information, and there's just a lot of ammo sitting there. So, what combination we get, we can look back at history when they slip somebody in, but we're probably looking at some combination of Kamala for a short period of time, but I foresee some antics, some shenanigans, as we say, that will end up with, I'd say, a Clinton and an Obama. But we will see, right?
From a movie perspective, since you make movies, it looks like a movie. I mean, I was talking to someone the other day, and they're like, something, isn't this how they make movies? Like, they have the characters in the beginning, and then you go through something, and then you bring those characters back in the end. I mean, is this starting to look like a movie to you?
Absolutely, it's looking like a movie, and I think that's why I think I got a lot of my research I did, since the call it the late '80s. Was you're always digging through history and looking for great stories to tell, right?
Right.
And we are living. These are very historical times, and even when I was gathering film crew to work on this movie, I said we're living in what's happening right now. Let's say you want to make movies from 2025 until we call it a day and pass away. Hopefully in our 80s or 90s or something. But we've got movies for the rest of our life about what's happening right now, let alone going back and retelling stories that the globalists have created, be it, the Social Network or All the President's Men, right? The corporate media, they know how to get a book out and they make a movie and they write their own history. So they tell us All the President's Men was, the Watergate story. I could go on and on of various movies where you're like, that seems like someone's trying to tell their narrative. And so what we're living in right now, you can't make this stuff up. It's a case of truth is stranger than fiction.
Yeah. So when you were making Flynn's movie, I mean, was it very different than making an actual movie, the documentary?
It's a great question. I tried to the big difference, right, was there's no script.
True.
Right? When you go to make an action thriller, you have a script and you adjust and kind of go with it. But this, we just started filming. I did approach it where I wanted to make it look nice because I felt I'd seen a lot of documentaries out there, and I thought one thing I could bring to it with my Hollywood experience was just a slick look and so that, sometimes it's hard to get people to take their medicine, right? So I really wanted to make it look nice, but I also wanted to, I stressed humanity because I didn't want it to be for people that were just into politics, geopolitics, military. I opened with, the war theme because General Flynn and Donald Trump, and you could throw in Bernie Sanders. Like there were certain voices. You could throw in Rand Paul and maybe his father, Ron Paul. But there have been voices who said, let's end these endless wars. But what struck me about General Flynn was his humanity, his kindness, his goodness, and he's incorruptible. And I'd seen that they tried to dehumanize him. So I thought one of my duties as a filmmaker was to reintroduce him as a human, which every living soul deserves that dignity to be presented as a human being. So I did invest a lot of time into who is he as a man? If you had a moment, to come in the backyard and have a barbecue with them, or you were just sitting chatting with him over coffee, I thought everyone should get a piece of that, because I noticed as the film crew came in, they digested all the fake news, and then they'd meet him, and after a couple hours, if not instantly, they'd be like, "This is a great guy. This nothing compute, nothing's in sync with what the globalist media has told us." So that was my kind of marching orders to myself, which is how can I make a movie that recreates the experience that people have when they actually have some one-on-one deaths? And it's actually been a great lesson for me in psychological warfare and the power of media brainwashing. But to your point, yes, I presented it. I'm going to use my Hollywood crew, meaning I'm not going to make any.
Were they against this?
Some were. I'd call them up, and I'd say, "Here's these were tough." Putting a crew together, I didn't want to just go into like the Patriot community and pull people from there. I wanted to use the same crew I'd always used. So yes, I had probably my number one job as a movie maker, and this was salesman at first, because I was just saying, and most people, because I would say, look, he was one of the few people within the Obama administration who was actually trying to hold up hope and change and get us out of these endless wars. So I appealed to their kind of liberal or libertarian sensibilities, but inevitably, now that they were like, okay, I'm off to Florida to film a movie about General Flynn, then they would do a bunch of research, and they would do all the things that, they'd use Google, and they'd read the top 10 searches, not, you got to scroll past the first 1,000 to get something truthful from Google. They would watch the PBS hit piece, right? So the phone would ring about 24 hours later, and I was like, okay. And then I'd listen to them, and then I'd know exactly what they watched as far as the hit pieces. And we'd talk, and I said, just come to Florida. I go, and if meet General Flynn, meet his family. And if you still don't want to be a part of this, I won't hold it against you. And everybody came, and everyone stayed on board for the entire run. And there was a lot of love. There was a lot of, and that I would notice if like there was a day off and they started talking to people that I could see it's like lint, right? Once you have the deep state globalist media in your brain, it doesn't flush out immediately. So I'd have to bring them back in. And I've noticed the same with me, because I've done something that is against Hollywood. And when I'm not around patriots or I can feel 30 years of Hollywood it will creep into my own brain sometimes, as far as fear. But that's what we're in, Dave. We are in narrative warfare, and we're trying to reverse a lot of programming that's been done to us all.
So Scott, since you made this film, have you been getting pushback from Hollywood? Like, no, I get, they're assuming that, okay, you're with Flynn, you're with Trump, you're conservative. You know what? We don't want you in Hollywood. We're not going to give you jobs. Did you feel any pushback?
Yes, but it's always done with plausible deniability, right? But no one, but also I'm different. Like, I feel like our everything's at stake. So when I made this jump and I was searching for a movie to tell, I think I was verbal, and even I don't like social media, but I'd posted some things about Anthony Fauci. And I was against the shots and the mandates, and I felt pushback then, but that was a turning point for me when it came to someone. I basically would say to Hollywood colleagues, I'm like, actually, then you're a pretend liberal. I'm still actually a liberal in the sense that I have basic ideas. I'm not in sync with Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates and the entire establishment. And I'm not in sync with endless wars and a proxy war in Ukraine with Russia. So I have my own kind of sardonic way of dealing with them. But when I made this decision, it wasn't, I saw the severity of what's happening. So I jumped off the cliff and didn't look back. And I believe that, and I did say this to some of the crew. I said, well, maybe by doing this, you're going to at least be on record that you were on the right side of history. And that's the way I feel. So, Hollywood is full of opportunists, and I think many of them will regret in a year or two that they were on the wrong side of history.
Is Hollywood is as corrupt as people think it is?
Yes, and there's also many more good people than I hear that term used a lot, and it's very monolithic, as if it's just. But Hollywood is like the medical industry, right? If you have a friend that's a doctor that has been indoctrinated by med school, and they just kind of go along with what the hospital's saying. Wall Street is a community, and they all, if you tell them like that the Federal Reserve is no good and we need to get rid of it, and you tell them it's our third central bank and it can't, Andrew Jackson got rid of our second one, and you walk them through, they're just like, no, the Federal Reserve is everything. It's like they have Stockholm syndrome, right?
Right.
So let's go back to Hollywood. Hollywood is, yes, there's corruption, but no more than in DC and Wall Street and in the medical community. But by the most part, there's a lot of good people, and Hollywood is ripe for its own spiritual revolution, because one thing about creative people, whether you're a guitar player, singer, songwriter, stand-up comedian, movie maker, many of them are rebels. Like they grew up in high school and always speaking out. And that's what I kind of try to say to my colleagues is you will always be rewarded as a creative person, as an artist, by searching for the truth and speaking the truth, because and the reward might not be instantly, but that is just the nature of creative people, which is to search for the truth. So, and there's lots of those people in Hollywood, but I can't stress, and I've had these talks with General Flynn, just kind of talking about Hollywood versus, I can't stress how hard it is for individuals living in Los Angeles in the Hollywood community to break, because it is so. I mean, when someone in 2016, if someone's like, I'm going to speak out and say I'm for Donald Trump, they're thinking about unemployment. They're thinking about, if they're single, they're thinking, oh, I'll never date again, right? Now these things aren't true, but there's been a huge investment into establishing a community, and it's probably at the top of the corporations, where again, like a study in psychological warfare. Not to sound dramatic, but that's what it is. So I have a lot of empathy for people that are still may be where I was, call it in 2012.
So do you see a shift in Hollywood where now everything is changing?
Absolutely. Because I'd say the most of the block is like 60%, and that's kind of a massive piece of concrete, right? But there's some rollers underneath it, right? And then you've got 20% over here, 20% over here. But as soon as, call it the Patriots, that's becoming larger and larger and larger. And the whatever you want to call it, the globalist collaborators are shrinking. And so that battle, when it gets to a certain point, this chunk, this monolith in the middle finally just shifts. And I see that's going to happen. As battles are won often by a very small percentage. And unfortunately, the sadness is there are some people that just, in all communities, that are just going to kind of remain quiet, and they're going to shift when they feel it's the safest path. And I wouldn't, Hollywood is just a microcosm of many other communities. So people are hard on Hollywood, and it deserves it. But there's a lot of good people out there that have great minds. They're just, many of them are scared.
Yeah. I was actually very surprised that you were able to get, I don't know how you guys did it, but you were able to get the Flynn movie on Amazon. I was actually shocked about that. I mean, how did you do that?
Well, that when you go to flynnmovie.com, you can see all the platforms. And I'm
Right.
always telling people, text the 14 characters, flynnmovie.com, and text it to people. And I say, when it comes up and you see all the platforms we're on, I said, that alone is a miracle. And maybe it's a combination of old-fashioned independent filmmaking with military intelligence
Yeah.
minds that got it. But I think on the Amazon thing, I wasn't in those direct meetings, but I think I do. I recall that there was some pushback, and you get to a point where I think these people, the enemy thinks, well, if they take anything, I mean, there's a million movies on
Right.
Amazon. So if they resisted the General Flynn movie, maybe it would have created more press than, and that's an old rule of show business, right? Any press is good press. So at one point, it appears they just capitulated.
Wow, absolutely, it's incredible, and it's good because a lot of people are able to view it, and they have a huge reach, which allowed a lot of people to view the Flynn movie, which is great, and everyone should know about that. Do you think General Flynn will have a place in Trump's administration?
Yes.
What position do you think? What position do you think he'll be in?
Well, I think through it a lot because he's, where we are right now, you might say, just start where you left off. You talked earlier, Dave, about going full circle.
Right.
Maybe National Security Advisor, which would give him purview over our 17 plus intelligence agencies. There are other roles as well, but I have confidence in President Trump that he knows. I think there's a facade he keeps for television, President Trump, of like, he's got just the establishment around him, but I think a lot of it has been to expose the rhinos. But I think when the moment comes, I believe he's going to put General Flynn into a very effective position.
So you're saying that you think Trump is playing a role?
I think Trump is very savvy, as are, you could say the same thing about Eisenhower and JFK and Nixon, but I'd say he's the best. And so I think he understands media and television, and he also understands optics. So yeah, I think he. We cover a lot of Mike Pence in the movie.
Right.
And I hear a lot of people critique Donald Trump for bringing him in, right?
Right.
Now, I have my own theory. Each time I watch the movie with a crowd, I'm still thinking, I'm running scenarios, game theory, right? But maybe I notice like a lot of things Donald Trump does, it's almost like he studied history very carefully. I know that, for example, George H.W. Bush was forced under Reagan, right?
Yes.
And Reagan was this charismatic, a former movie star and governor of California, who also did a TV show called GETV
Yes.
in between governors. And so I think actually Trump modeled, said, well, got to stay relevant and got to stay in the minds of even the young crowd. So many people see his TV show, The Apprentice. I looked at that as, oh, he's running for president, right? Other people think it's reversed. It's what your paradigm is. But with Mike Pence, it's if you want to see the chessboard, right? And you say, okay, let's see who they bring at me. So you learn a lot as Mike Pence was presented to Donald Trump, and you see his. Kind of his group. You had Paul Ryan, former Speaker of the House, who's now at Fox. You have that kind of Rance Priebus. The movie covers how these guys are all kind of in sync. I think old college pals, I believe. But so maybe it's like Trump said, all right, let me see the playing board. And the same thing with Adam Lovinger, who's in the film, who I called him the real Jack Ryan, right? I'm a big Tom Clancy fan. Adam Lovinger explains that Russiagate was something that was set up and was ready to go like a mousetrap in 2010. Okay. So if that mousetrap, and that's a major weapon, and the enemy has it ready, well, what you want them to snap, to let that mousetrap go, right? So it's no longer a weapon. So you get into many things where I think, yes, Donald Trump is, he doesn't show his cards, right? And neither does General Flynn. So I hope that answers your question, but I do think people say, oh, he's surrounded by the same people. Well, maybe that's what you do. Maybe you keep your friends close, but your enemies closer.
So, I mean, you mentioned Jack Ryan and Tom Clancy. At the end of the Republican National Convention, they played Nessun Dorma from Sum of All Fears. What do you get out of that? Why do you think they played that?
I think some of the best trolling ever. At the end of Sum of All Fears, for those that don't know, it's a movie, I think in 2002 with Ben Affleck and Morgan Freeman. But at the end, this cabal is trying to get Russia and the United States to go to war with each other, and there's a false flag. But as the truth prevails and Russia and the United States sign a treaty, the deep state is eliminated in a montage that's right out of the end of The Godfather. And that song plays, and the translated Italian ends at dawn. I win, I win, I win. And so, yeah, Trump ended his speech with win, win, win. We heard that, and this haunting opera in Italian. But probably no one studies this stuff better than Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama. So I think when you hear that, and that's been going on for some time now. So when it played, I was like, this is the master of trolling, because even you go back to mythology, and even the comic books of Batman. Bruce Wayne was like, the criminals are a cowardly lot, right? And you have to get into their psychology, and you can defeat their morale with fear, because that's what they use on us. So I see some of this stuff as just simply masterful.
Hey, Scott, thank you very much for being on the X22 Report Spotlight. If somebody wanted to watch the Flynn movie or even see your other work, where should everyone go?
FlynnMovie.com, and that will take you instantly to all the platforms, or you can go to Amazon Prime on your smart TV or YouTube TV. And I'm at Scott Wiper USA at X and Truth Social.
Great. I'll put all the links at the bottom of the video. Scott, once again, thank you very much for being on the Spotlight. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.